wait for how this goes. You got your friends and you got your foes. They want a piece of something hot. Forget your name like they forgot. Ain't that something? Someone to see you crash and burn, criticize your every word. I'm trying to keep from going insane. Ain't that the way of this whole damn thing? Trying to be something more.
We're having our first student speaker. I got the opportunity to teach Stacy. Stacy is absolutely fabulous to have in class. She's just a real sweetheart, and I can't wait for you to hear all the stuff that she's going to share. She's got a real sensitive story, a personal story, and I ask that you just have open ears. And I don't know what she's going to invite us to later, if we're going to have a discussion or questions. It's really going to be up to her, but just give her the opportunity and listen to what she has to say, because I think this could be relevant for either you or somebody you know. So everyone put your hands together for Stacy Kiko.
Hi guys.
Hi.
Happy Friday. Thank you guys for sparing a little bit of your weekend here and just to hear me out and speaking. This is really excited, and I don't know, so I guess we'll just go right into it. So today I'm going to be speaking about a sensitive topic, not a topic that many people want to talk about or even want to acknowledge. And I've, as all of you guys know here, I've been through it firsthand. And if I ever make you uncomfortable at any point, there's the door, and you can walk out, and I'm not going to feel bad. But, and then I guess Mr. Musari, he was asking me if I'd like to take questions at the end, and feel free to. If you want to pick my brain, go for it. There's nothing I won't talk about. I'm sort of an open book. And so, I know you guys already know, but I'm going to be talking about self-harm, and specifically cutting. And back when I asked for help in November, I couldn't even say the word without freaking out. It's a harsh word, cutting, and when anyone in guidance or any administrators would say that, I was sort of in denial, like I couldn't hear the word. And so to really understand it, and today I'm not asking you that when you leave to completely understand it, because I truly believe that the only people who will ever 100% understand it is if you look at someone's wrist and you see the scars, but you don't just see scars. You see the memories, and you see the pain, and you see the mistakes made. So there's a lot that goes into it. And preparing for this speech, I was sort of on the hunt for how can I make anyone start to understand. And I was on the computer, and for those of you guys who do know me, I like poetry. I'd like to be an English major. And I found this poem called Survivor. And it was written by a teenage girl who went through cutting and went through getting help just like I did. And if you listen to the poem, it's not that deep, but you will understand what it's like to cut yourself. So this is Survivor. The razor won't save you from the hurt and the pain. You'll still feel alone. You'll still feel ashamed. The blood calms the moment. The red colors your life. 'Cause nothing's as good as the cool of the knife. The first time is deceitful. You'll feel better than worse. You know it was stupid, but your thoughts have dispersed. A moment of calm. A miracle at least. Your mind takes a break. The cut tamed the beast. Or that's what you'll think every night since the first. Just cut once a week, it couldn't get worse. But that's the mistake, thinking you're in control. That's just how it starts. That's how it takes hold. You cry just to cut, you cut just to cry. The secrets and scars become too much to hide. You dread someone knowing, but you want someone to know. You don't even think you could ever let go. The razor has won. It's stolen your trust. Your love for the razor has turned into lust. You're not suicidal. You don't want to try. But you just wonder what it would be like to die. But then someone sees. Someone noticed your cuts. You think it's all over, but you keep your mouth shut. You'll just blame the cat or a trip or a fall. But really, you're wishing you could just tell them all. You just want to scream, help, notice my need. But you won't, you'll just lie, then you'll go home and bleed. This could go on for months, or possibly years. Then something will change and bring you to tears. It's time to speak up, get help, face your fears. You'll throw out your razors and vow not to cut. You'll reach out for help, you can't do it yourself. It'll seem like forever, be it a day or month, since the last lovely time you made your last cut. The pathway is long, you may slip once or twice, but that doesn't mean that you've lost the knife. The scars on your body, the urge in your head, will be with you long after depression is dead. Although you've recovered, it's become part of you. So don't mind the people that judge you untrue. So learn from what happened, know you're alive, and never regret what you did to survive. So that poem was written by a teenager, and in preparation I did a little research, and there's not that much research that has gone into the act of self-harming, because many people believe, what's the problem? No one has really thought about mental disease as a big problem until the past few years. And in order for research to happen, it has to be documented over a long period of time. But what they have realized is that 1 in 12 kids, adolescents, teenagers, classmates, will self-harm. So at East we have pretty big class sizes, whether it be 24 or 36. 2 or 3 kids in your class will hurt themselves on purpose for some reason. And I was one of them, and up until I spoke out for help, no one knew. As a society, we are so aware of people's problems that it becomes that much easier to hide our problems. For me, I knew even though I wasn't feeling well, that I really didn't want to be in school, that maybe I'd have an anxiety attack in my 4th period class, that it was okay. No one would notice as long as I smiled and I had a confident voice. That's what led to a lot of people being shocked and surprised. And self-harm is a really deceitful word. The word self, that's a lie, because sure, in the moment, and this was a misconception that I wanted to believe for such a long time. I thought, I'm just hurting myself. I'm going to be selfish, I'm going to hurt myself, I'm going to cut my skin, and I'm going to bleed, and the only person that's going to get hurt is me. And that's the way it was for 30 years. Until I couldn't take it anymore. That I asked for help, and people found out. And I had a teacher cry. She said, "Why didn't I notice? I'm a teacher, and I am supposed to know if a student is all right." Alright, so I betrayed many different teachers. I betrayed family. how can I not know that my daughter's cutting herself? That she really feels that worthless? I've hurt and worried so many people, and it sucks, because that guilt, that's what hurts most, and unfortunately that's what fueled my cutting to get worse. You know, I would always say it got a lot worse August and September into October. But then once I asked for help in the beginning of November, that is truly when I couldn't bear it anymore. Now, I wrote an article that you guys probably have all read by now, and it's a pretty big deal. They wouldn't let me put my name with the paper unless I got parental permission. That makes sense. And it was a scary thing, and there were reasons why I did it, and it wasn't for helping anyone but myself. It was a way to get things off my chest. Now, really, for any of this to make sense to you guys, you need to know why I started cutting in the first place. And I always thought, should I be open about it? And yeah, it's a hard thing to talk about, but it's necessary. Now, like a lot of kids at East, they come from families who have really good jobs and good lives, on the surface at least. And for me, I never had that. Everyone knew what Stacy went home to after school every day, all through elementary school and all through middle school. I live in a trailer park, okay? So there's a lot of stereotypes that go along with that. I thought, all right, well, you know what, they'll just say those things, it won't get to me. Let's just go off the old saying, sticks and stones will break my bones, but words will never hurt me. Alright, so in 6th grade, some kids who were on my bus saw me getting off at my stop. And the next day, they're like, hey, do you have a refrigerator? Do you have air conditioning, heater? Do you have a bed? Do you sleep on the floor? Do you basically live in a shack like they do out in Africa? No, I don't. I have television. I have internet. Is that really such a bad thing? What a lot of kids didn't know is the circumstance for living in my neighborhood. My mom is probably, and we're all going to say this about her mom, she's the best person on this planet. My mom's got it going on. And unfortunately, since a little kid, she has dealt with a lot of medical conditions. And when she initially married my dad, they said, you know, you probably shouldn't have kids. It would be a detriment to your health. But she's like, I'm going to hold a little baby in my arms, so yeah, I'm going to have a kid. I'm going to ignore what you say. And, you know, this might not be the root of all problems, but when it's your 5th birthday and your dad's working the night shift just to keep a roof over your head, and your mom's kidney fails and you see her dying, that's a wake-up call that no little 5-year-old wants to go through. And since that day, she has basically lived in the hospitals in this area. I can be blindfolded in Doylestown Hospital, Abington, Lehigh, UPenn, any of them, and I will know my way around. She's probably got the most money out of her life insurance that anyone can get, medical insurance. whatever it be. And so that always bugged me, and that's why I knew that we lived in my neighborhood, and that's what I was going through. So I didn't like to come out with my feelings, because I knew my parents were going through so much other stuff. I don't want to be an attention hog, but in middle school, the stereotypes for my neighborhood got a lot worse. Suddenly, I was an alcoholic. I was fed. I was addicted to drugs. I stole. I cheated. I was worthless. And the girls who started this, you know what? It was a mistake. But I didn't handle it in the way that I should have. And I started acting out. I got a Saturday suspension, and that really only was just the beginning. That night I came home, and I really did feel like trailer trash. I didn't deserve to live. You can only be told that so many times before you start to believe it. My mom's on so many drugs that when we go to the doctors, her drug list is 6 pages long. I can spew off 20 or 30, and I don't know what they do to my body. But when they weren't home, that didn't stop me from grabbing a bottle of oxycodone and going to the bathroom. And I was like, I know this is to release pain. It'll make me feel better. So if I were to just take a handful, maybe I wouldn't notice when I died. And it would just be peaceful, right? And I cried in the shower, thinking maybe I should do this, maybe I shouldn't. And so maybe cutting was a blessing in disguise because it stopped me from taking a handful of pills. I carved trash into my thigh that day, and it was a deep cut. But it wasn't the end. And so I was like, hey, I can just go on living this way, cutting whenever I need to. And except that only happened a few times over the next few months until I realized that I had potential that summer. I'd gotten accepted into this summer arts camp up in Michigan. And it's a renowned arts camp, and I got in for writing. So I cut ties from everyone from middle school. I went there, and I came back, and it was a fresh start here at East. 10th grade, majority of 11th grade, I didn't cut myself once. And it was a really great feeling because I finally felt like I was making good friends. And so why did it start again? That was because I lost that self-worth. Sure, I went to prom in 10th grade with a really nice guy who hasn't had an easy life. And he said, you're really special. You don't have to ever feel bad again. Except when he graduated, and then the next guy that paid attention to me, I was like, yeah, sure, I kind of like you. Let's go out on a date. Okay, where do you live? Well, I told him my address, but I didn't tell him the neighborhood I lived in. I already assumed he knew. I can't find a house. I live in the trailer park. Oh, okay, so we get to my house, and, well, I don't have to say everything, but there is one thing that he wanted that I didn't give him, would never want to give him, and it literally made me feel like trash, because then he left, and he was like, you're not good for anything. Alright, so that started back up again. And again, it wasn't all the time. Unfortunately, after months, that was the only thing I wanted to do. August, September, October, and November of this year were really dark and really bad, and suddenly cutting wasn't just a coping mechanism, but it became an addiction. You know, most people think addictions like heroin or alcohol, but I would cut when I woke up, and I would cut before I went to bed. I'd have dreams where I would wake up in the middle of the night and reach for the scissors next to my bed. It became a really big problem just because I felt I needed the pain. And then I felt like I needed the short amount of relief that came with it. So asking for help, that was a very rash decision. And I never would have done it if the circumstances had been different. I turned 18 on October 25th, and it should have been a really good day. Except I had cut the night before, and I cut that morning, birthday shot. So I'm like, I really need to talk to a friend. Let me talk to you. Okay, well guess what? I've been cutting myself for the past year, and I'm sorry I never told you. I never realized my best friend, since I was a little kid, had been hurting herself because I was too ignorant. And yeah, that's not my problem. But I felt really bad, so I cut that night. And I cut every night since. And that weekend, I was really excited because I had been going to my first Broadway show. And I went to go see Wicked, and it was great. Except for everything else that was going on. And it's funny how anxiety attacks, they'll come out of nowhere. There was a little bit of traffic on the highway. I hadn't finished all of my homework. So what did that cause? That caused me to break down in the back of family friend's car, hiding my tears for 2.5 hours, panic texting one friend that I met earlier that year. And just the night before, I had told her what I had done, and she's like, I never expected you to be a person that did that, but I'll stand by you. And I said, if it ever gets bad enough, I want you to tell someone. Well, the night I went to go see Wicked was the night I said, hey, I need help. And so it's really funny how you will have people walk into your life and you won't think of anything of it until you realize the impact. And that was on the first day of school. I walked into my third block sociology class and I was like, aren't I supposed to have a girl teacher? Great! So you're going to be the teacher that doesn't show up on the first day of school. That was my first impression. And I didn't know she was out on maternity. And that teacher, that substitute, was a semi-permanent substitute. And since it was a sociology class, it wasn't as structured as, an AP comparative government class. And so we had discussions about different things going on in society. And I was like, well, if there's any teacher I want to go to, it would be him. Because I'm really scared. So I said, I need you to go in Monday morning and tell that teacher. Well, okay. So she did. And I was nervous because I had that class right after lunch. So I was always one of the first kids to get to that class. And I didn't really know what to say because at the time I knew that he knew, but he had no idea I knew. And so I was like, is he going to look at me differently? Is he going to say something? Is he going to think I'm just worthless? No, I don't think so, but I'm scared again, so I didn't really say anything. That went on for 3 days until I couldn't bear it anymore. And I went in early in the morning and I was like, hey, so I know that you know that I'm cutting myself. Alright, so now school knows. My family knew only because I mentioned it to my cousin who was having a hard time at Westchester, wanting to drop out. And I said, well, don't act on it. What do you mean? Well, I've cut myself like once or twice, no big deal. Well, of course, she told her mom, who told her husband, who called my aunt and uncle, who called my parents. So my family knew. And it literally felt like everyone was coming at me, because no one really knew how to react. And I did feel trapped. It wasn't one of those, you secretly get referred to the START program and no one knows, because I had been referred last year for anxiety. And unfortunately, I should have paid more attention to that then, but I was ignorant. And, you know, ignorance is a universal thing, because when someone finds out someone they know is cutting themselves, they feel mad, whether it be at themselves or the act. What could drive a human to do that? Or they just feel ignorant and stupid, whatever it is. And that's how I felt. And so it was about a week after asking for help that I emailed my editor for the Intel, and I was like, hey, maybe one day I'd like to write an article about this. You don't have to put it as cover or anything, just put it as like a little inside story. No, that's too big. We're going to make a big deal out of this, because it's going to help people. No, it's not. I'm just doing it for myself. You know, get things off my chest. So I wrote it, and I let some faculty know here. And at the time, they didn't express their concerns to me, because they didn't want me feeling a certain way. But they were worried that it was too soon. It's too fresh. It's just going to hurt you, and I was okay with that. If someone said something bad, even though I didn't want this, I secretly wanted it. I wanted it to fuel the rage and for me to know that I was worthless. So now I view it as this article was an experimental cancer drug. It could go badly, it could do nothing, or it could make things so much better. And that day I didn't realize what exactly was going to go on until it unfolded a bit. And to this day, I am so thankful I did write it, because for the next 7 weeks I didn't cut myself. And that was the longest time I went without hurting myself in months. And I felt the old me returning. Suddenly I wanted to write. And I had fallen out of writing for a really long time. And that just ultimately hurt me. But then it was great, because a lot of people came and contacted me about it. And whenever I'm having a bad day, I will honestly just look at these messages, and I am thankful that I am here, because my worth skyrocketed greatly. A lot of people shared it on the internet and like Facebook, and so I'm just going to read some of the comments and messages. Have you noticed how all the good writers are depressed or anxious? I think it's because they've seen another side to life and aren't afraid to write about it. They're able to convey real, deep, raw emotions in their stories. Anyway, I know we haven't talked for a while, but I'm proud of you for not only getting help, but for not hiding it. Never stop writing. And someone else said, I've battled self-harm for almost 5 years, and all I can say is thank you. Not many people realize how terrible of a thing it is, and you having the courage to write an article like this just puts a smile on my face. And I realize there are good people in this world. Thanks. My aunt shared it on her Facebook, and one of her friends said, thanks so much for sharing this. I'm circulating it among my colleagues and students at WC. you. Facing deliberate self-harm and moving from victim to victor is truly a journey of discovery. And thankfully, by breaking silence, we don't have to face it alone. And then some kids at East came up to me. They saw my article in the guidance department. Apparently, I restored their faith in East. Personally, I never thought it was such a bad place, but that varies depending on your experience. And one of my classmates said, "Hey Stacy, I don't know if there's any truth in you being recommended to start or not, but seriously, dude, I've had problems since cutting since the beginning of 9th grade. And I know firsthand about depression and suicide and stuff. I know maybe the school was overreacting and maybe you don't really have a problem. But at one point, I went through shower monitoring just like you. And razor rationing. And the parents having no clue how to handle this. So, I've got your back. No one's ever said any of that. And I never realized how many kids go through it. Like I said, 1 in 12. And it makes me sad to realize I'm not the only one. Because no one should have to feel that way. And really, it is just all about your mentality and your perception of things. And, beginning of 11th grade, it was full of promise. And on the first day, we had our school assembly. And every kid I know goes in there, and they're like, I'm not going to pay attention. It's the morning. I'm just waking up. Sure, I'll be respectful, but I have other things on my mind, so I'm just going to kind of doze off. And, okay, I was sort of one of those kids. But there was something that kind of woke me up. And someone speaking said, choose to be a victor and not a victim. And, alright, I heard that in 10th grade too. But there was something at that moment that it gave me a little faith and a little hope that things were going to get better. And to pick myself up when things get down. Because I don't want to regret all these years, because these years are supposed to be the best years of your life. And it doesn't matter if there's a down point, a low point, and really you just need to know that everything here is going to change in a heartbeat. Coming into this school year, I didn't think I was going to go to college. I thought, it's going to be a financial strain. My dad wants me to go to Bucks, and I don't want to go there, so I'm just not going to go at all. I was stubborn. But now I'm going to Westchester, and I'm really excited. And so, you just have to have a little bit of perspective, and know to deal with things when things get bad. Mr. Morehouse, he spoke of having a box inside of you, and you can only put so much in there until it explodes. And you know what? It did. And there are things that I'm never going to be able to do. At least for a really long time. I can't get a shower and be even remotely upset with there being a shaving razor there because I might do something stupid. I can't watch Perks of Being a Wallflower because that's a trigger for me. I've noticed I do engage in risky behavior, but I don't drink, I don't do drugs. Maybe I just sometimes speed when I drive. Or, like, who doesn't? Or I pinch my fingernails.
Just kidding.
Or, I want a tattoo. And I was always like, I don't want to get tattoos, they're for delinquents. And yet, here's my friend who, has all these piercings, and she's just like, whatever, I'm upset, I'm just going to go get a new piercing. Whatever. Just don't self-sabotage. Don't hurt yourself. And I'm a pretty big fan of Macklemore. All my friends know that's when the party started at prom. But he has this one song, and whenever I'm upset, I'll go out for a run, and I will just blast this song on repeat. And it's called Other Side. It's about the dangers of drugs. And he says, I've seen my people's dreams die. I've seen what they can be denied. And looking back, I always thought, well, since I don't do drugs or I don't drink, I don't fall into that stereotype of trailer trash. I'm not wasting my life. But looking back, I have scarred myself. I've cut myself. And I felt really lousy. And I want that to stop. I want to go for my full potential. And everyone in this room, no matter what your age is, you should go for your full potential. Don't stop because there's an obstacle. Don't stop because you've made a bad decision. You don't let your bad decisions become mistakes unless you refuse to learn from them. And that's something we all need to learn in high school. Just because you have an bad point right now. Maybe you get detention, or you accidentally mouth off to a teacher. I don't know. But, that can't be the end of you. You can't listen to these other people who don't know your story and don't know your worth. Because if you guys don't feel like you're worth anything, just know that to me you matter. And that might not be a lot. But if you're having a bad day, even if we're not friends, I'll smile at you. And I'll hope that, you do well in your life. And you have a good day. Because in all, you just need someone to pick you up when you're down. And honestly, that is basically what I can say. Every day I'm really sad when I hear another kid commit suicide. It's a lot of wasted potential because you don't know what they could be. Maybe they would be a president. Or make a change in the ecosystem. Do something good, big or little, make someone laugh. And so, karma, take it by its neck. Maybe things would never work out the way that they're supposed to without you having a little faith, goodwill. Had it not been for my sociology teacher, who knows, I might not be standing here today. And I'm a worrywart. I always worry about my mom. I can't speak. I always worry about my mom. And I know it wasn't my place to worry, but when someone does something good for me, I want to see them do really well. And so for a month or two, it scared me that that teacher who helped me might not be employed in a couple months. And that scared me because, to be selfish, I was like, I kind of want you around so I can talk to you, and you're the first person I came to. And you know what? Now they have a job here. So I'm thankful, and I know they're thankful. And for any good thing that anyone ever does, just be thankful and try to pass it on. And that's as much as I can say.
Are you getting better with, like, in terms of, like, feelings?
Yeah, I am. And there are slip-ups. I'm not going to lie. Like anyone who's ever cut themselves, just because you say it's going to stop today, there's going to be a slip-up. And I came into school 3 weeks ago. My mom's been in the hospital for a month. And it was a really crummy time. I thought at one point the doctors made the call and she wasn't going to wake up in the morning. So there was a lot of stress, anxiety there. And in the first time in 7 weeks, I cut myself. And I worried a lot of people. I worried my one friend that had I not answered her text message or her call, she was going to call the ambulance because I said I cut myself 50 times. I cut myself on the wrist and on the ankle, all up and down my legs and on my hip. So that was a big slip up. And you need to realize that every day is a brand new day. You can't judge yourself. I came in and I was like, I was 3 days away from making it 2 months without hurting myself. And now I have to start over. Alright, well, now I'm at 3 weeks. And it'll be a month, it'll be a year, and I'll get better. So, you know, you gotta take it day by day. Carmen.
What is the best thing that someone could do, like if you know someone who's hurting themselves, like what's the best thing you can do for them?
Okay. You need to tell someone. And for me, that was a hard thing. Because when I found out my best friend for years was cutting herself, she was out with her friends, and I went over to her house. And I told her parents, flat out, and I had to tell them that I cut myself for them to be like, oh, that's how she knows. But tell someone, and even if that person's going to be mad at you, they're going to thank you in the end. She didn't talk to me for 2 months. And now she's really happy because she's getting home. None of her other friends, they're like, she's got it under control. She won't do anything. She won't cut herself. Well, that only did so much. So talk to someone. We have START program here. Or just be helpful throughout that. Even though you ask for help for them, you need to be there. Even if they don't want to talk to you, you always have to lend an open ear. Try to understand it. Don't be ignorant to it. Anyone else? Okay.
It's not a question, it's just more of a, more of a comment. Not as a principal, just as a guy.
Okay.
First of all, you are incredibly captivating and mesmerizing speaker. I don't know about anybody else, but I could not take my eyes and ears off of you for an hour, or whatever it was. Spellbinding speaker. Tremendous story. And I couldn't help but just, you know, one of the things we talk about all the time, is not looking at people for what they are ever, instead of what they will become. And I couldn't help but think how exciting it is to think about what you're going to become. And how incredibly strong you are, resilient, and I'm very proud of a lot of your work. Thank you.
That was awesome. Fantastic. Stacey, you're a gem. I don't know what else to say. I think Mr. said it all, and of course, he just really wrapped it up for us. And I think you're probably going to welcome anyone who wants to talk to you afterwards in private, and
me going into teacher mode. If someone here is struggling, please find somebody to talk to. It doesn't have to be me. It doesn't have to be somebody who's finding an adult point. Find somebody. Don't just sit on your problem. As you can see, you're probably not alone with having some of the thoughts that you're having. So powerful thoughts are approaching you. Please realize that. And one of the themes that keeps coming up in the pride is the idea of self-worth. And that's one of the reasons why we have that last line, I am a champion, I'm here. I want you guys, if you're part of this, to really realize wherever you're at in your life, you can make a choice and really realize that you are going to become, you can be, and embrace a new identity. So I hope that can be a reality for you. So that was awesome, Stacey. You are just a gem. You're like a gem. So
Thank you.
I feel like you're like beaming. So I love basking. This is awesome.
You have to say